Hey guys, I'd really like to provide you all with just a short video devotional for the next few Sundays. I hope you're taking advantage of the opportunity to continue worshiping with our church family on Sunday mornings. But in the absence of Bible classes, I really just wanted to share something with you, maybe something for you to study, but definitely something to offer you some encouragement. You know, of all the things that this year has taught us, I believe we've all realized just how much we need each other. And I think that as we approach Christmas time, in looking at some of the events that surround the birth of Christ, we see just how much of a biblical concept this really is. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that you can be a Christian without being part of a church body. And as much as I disagree with that, as much as I want to debate that, I rarely do anymore. What I do know, whether or not you can be a Christian without being part of the church is one thing, but what I do know is this: it is impossible to grow as a Christian without being part of a local body of believers. Growing spiritually is difficult any way you slice it. It may be difficult enough to grow in a church family, but it is impossible without it. And maybe this is why the writer of Hebrews said to a community of believers, "But encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness." And then he goes on to say, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give up the habit of meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another." The Hebrew writer makes it crystal clear that being a part of the body of believers, being a part of the church, is one of the greatest avenues we have to being shaped and formed into the image of Jesus. Now, if you've ever been around a baby that was born prematurely, then you have seen for yourself why it is so important for that child to remain in the mother's womb for the full term. There is no place more suited for the formation of a human being than in a woman's womb. And what is true physically is also true spiritually. There is no place more suited for the formation of a spiritual being than in a body of fellow believers. And when I think of the life of Christ being nurtured inside each of us, I can't help but think of this beautiful story in the first chapter of Luke that shows us the interaction between Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist. And while this story is about two women carrying children, it also has so much to say to all of us who carry Christ within us. Because God wants to do the same extraordinary act in our lives that he did in Mary's life, to conceive and grow Christ within us. This is why I believe we can gain some real application for carrying Christ in our own lives. We can learn that from Mary's story. And we'll find as we journey through our own lives that this miracle of Christ living inside of us is no less extraordinary than Mary's. Mary had her challenges, that's for sure. She was a rural Jewish virgin, most likely a teenager, who was engaged to be married. And the angel Gabriel visited her and informed her that God had chosen her to be the mother of his son. Can you imagine what might have been running through Mary's mind? And do you realize how ridiculously amazing is the whole story surrounding the birth of Christ? We have no record of Mary trying to explain this to Joseph, but she must have tried, because Matthew 1:19 says that when Joseph learned of her pregnancy, he made up his mind to divorce her, which is what one did in Jewish culture in order to break an engagement. It took the angel of the Lord appearing to him in his own dream to convince Joseph to change his mind and take Mary to be his wife. Until that dream, it was apparent that Joseph didn't believe her. Can you blame him? After finding out that Mary was pregnant, though, after finding out that she was pregnant, she knew herself that she had a challenging road ahead of her. And we talk about this importance of having one another. Maybe that's why she hurries. As Luke 1:39 says, she hurries some 70 miles south of Nazareth to the hill country of Judea to see her relative Elizabeth. And she ends up staying with her for 3 months. Now, I'm not sure whether she went to see Elizabeth before she told Joseph, fearing what he was going to say, or if she went after she had told him and was told in return that the wedding was off. But what I do know is this: Mary needed Elizabeth. We're going to pick up there next week. We're going to pick up Mary and Elizabeth's encounter and talk about that more next week. But for now, I want you to consider this. 2020 has presented some pretty remarkable challenges, not the least of which is being separated from our friends and many loved ones at different times for varying lengths of time. And while most of us have been able to return to school and work with few interruptions, I know we've missed our time spent with our church family, our spiritual family. But whether it's in person or in spirit or virtual like this, we have to remember that we are in this together. We need one another, and we are better together.